I'm going to get try to get my thoughts in line here again. So we got married, Hilda and I, on the 22nd of November of 1945, and I really didn't know that that was Mama and Daddy's anniversary, but that's the way it was. And so when we got married and I was still in the military, why, I went up to Clarksville, Tennessee to look for a place to stay, and Hilda says, "You mean you haven't found me a room yet?" I said, "Well, we won't have any trouble." So we'd knock on the door and no place available. I bet we had that happen to us 2 or 3 times. And finally, Miss Stevenson in Clarksville, Tennessee, offered us a room upstairs, and we shared the bath with 5 telephone operators. So Ms. Stevenson asked Hilda, says, "Are you sure you young people are married?" And I'm not sure whether Hilda produced our marriage license, but she finally convinced her. But anyway, then I was still in the Army, still in at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and Hilda was there and living at, we moved from Clarksville, Tennessee to Hopkinsville, Kentucky, to a little bit bigger facility, but still not what you'd like to have. And then I was supposed to have a officers meeting on Saturday. So I was a little bit later getting home on Saturday afternoon, and Hilda wanted to know where I was, and we had this meeting where they were telling us that they were going to put out 5 task forces, and it says one of them is going to Camp McCoy, Wisconsin, the other one's going to Fairbanks, Alaska, and the third was going to Adak, Alaska. And I thought, that's so fantastic. I says, that'll never materialize. Here I am, a shavetail who thought I knew better than the intelligence people did. But it happened then that about every Saturday for 3 or 4 weeks, we were meeting and trying to formulate plans for this move from Fort Campbell, Kentucky to wherever we were going. And so they told me I was going to Adak, Alaska. And so I says, you know, I better tell Hilda about this. I said, she's going to be wanting to know pretty soon what's going on. And so I don't think I had mentioned this yet, but I believe she was expecting our first child, and then it develops that Cindy. And so as it developed, I had to leave to go to Alaska. And Hilda says, "What about me? How am I going to get home?" We had already bought a little 41 Plymouth. And so I said, "Well, don't worry." I says, "I'll call Robert and he'll come up and he'll take you home." And she says, "Is he a good driver?" I said, "Yeah. He was a Jeep driver in the Army in Europe, real good driver." Well, to fast forward again, when we got together again, Hilda says, "I thought you told me he was a good driver." "Well, he is." I says, "He got you home, didn't he?" "Yeah, but you should have seen him take those curves in Cumberland Draw, just like a figure 8 on the ground." And so, but she made it. And then I got to, I had to go to, or stay at Fort Ord, California for the Alaskan trip. Whatever I said trip, it's assignment. And so I didn't mention this, but when I came home from Europe, my Foot Locker and everything got mixed up. They didn't have airlines like they have today. I can't even remember exactly how I got home, but I lost all my baggage, Foot Locker and everything. And again, to fast forward a little, when that finally got back to Mama and Daddy, I was back in Alaska, I suppose. And so it had been a funny feeling for them to get a Foot Locker of clothes and stuff that belonged to me, and I wasn't accompanying it. But anyway, when Hilda was expecting the baby the last weekend in August, and she says, "You be home at the last weekend and I'll have that baby." And I thought, golly, how can I get home from staging in Fort Ord for Alaska? And I know they're not going to let me off. Well, sure enough, they did. They said, okay, if you can get here within a day's time, well, we'll let you go. So I finally got to Wellbard. She was going to a doctor in Bryan. And so she was born, let me straighten that out, Navasota. Ruthie was born in Bryan. But be this as it may, why, she assured me she'd have that baby last weekend in August. And so I had to get back to Fort Ord to sail for Alaska. And when I got back to Ord, still no word of a baby. Got up to Alaska, still no word of a baby. Well, it was come October the 4th that I finally got a telegram telling me that I was now a father. And I'll have to almost get sentimental because I'm a daddy. But I did not see Cindy until I got back, of course, from Alaska. And again, that was an interesting tour. We were sent up there to test clothing and equipment for cold, wet conditions. But I'll tell you for sure, all they issued us was what we had been issued before in Europe and elsewhere. So we didn't have any special equipment. And I finally got a telegram on the 4th of October that the baby was born. And I didn't get to see it, but a picture of her until I got back from Alaska. I don't remember now what else I want to include in that, but I've kind of deviated. Kathy wanted me to talk about Robert. I did tell you that Robert was a driver and he drove Hilda back, but she wasn't impressed with his driving. I was confident that we'd make it. So anyway, when I had already made arrangements when the baby was born for Robert to be the godfather and Doris Deering to be the godmother. And so, meanwhile, Doris had married Bobby Sr. And so when Hilda gave the baby to Robert and Doris to have it baptized, Hilda still was a Baptist and wasn't a member of the Catholic Church, so she didn't even go to the baptism. But when they got to the church or wherever it was, why, Doris had taken my baby gown that I was baptized in and all my children were baptized in and take it off of Cindy. Now I say that all my children later on, but Cindy was going to be the first one to be baptized in my gown. But Doris took it off and put her own gown on there. Excuse me, I'm going to answer this phone. I was interrupted for just a moment. That was Ann, and she's going to come pick us up at 3:15. She's being delayed a little bit. But anyway, Kathy says that Robert or Ted wanted me to tell how we got to Alaska. Well, the way it was is I was in the National Guard. I formed the National Guard on December the 1st of 1949 in Midland. And so we used to go to summer camp at Fort Hood, Texas. And one time when we were at summer camp at Fort Hood, why someone had taken a map reading aid from the camp, from Fort Hood. And we had already had our truck loaded and ready to move, and this major came by and he says, I was still a lieutenant at that time. He said, Lieutenant, I want you to unload out everything in that truck. We're looking for that map reading aid. And I said, I'd already asked my men, do we have that map reading aid? Oh, no, sir, no, sir. So I said,